So here we are in the 2012 Chevy Avalanche that I just bought not too long ago. One of the main reasons I bought this thing was because of the low mileage on it. And that's an interesting point when it fires up the Bluetooth there. I'll talk about that in a second. So it's only got 45,000 miles for a 2012. And here we are, it's early April 2024. What's the date today? The 11th or something like that. So one of the downsides of this truck is, of course, the technology of 2012 does not match the technology of 2024. So you saw there that my phone was connected via Bluetooth, but that's all it does. It is phone functions. So it doesn't do anything with the radio whatsoever. So in order to get Bluetooth, or I'm sorry, no Bluetooth, because there's no Bluetooth capability for audio. In order to get it to work, you got to connect the cable through the USB port to get the iPod function here, as you see on here, to work. And that's the only way you can get music, no CarPlay, no other functions whatsoever. So this radio is actually the best radio that Chevy had at the time. It's got the DVD player, it's got navigation, it's got the automatic climate controls, but we're gonna rip all this out, and we bought one of those Android 13-inch Tesla style radios that we are going to install. So consider this the before picture here, as you see, and we'll have, at the end of this video, hopefully we'll have a completed installation. All right, so the first step is you got to get this bezel off, and it's a pain in the ass. You don't want to use any of these crappy plastic things because they just fold and they break. They don't work. So you basically need to use a metal screwdriver. You have to be careful because I damaged it a little bit here. But anyway, once you can get a firm grip, you can start to pry away here and just kind of move your hands around it and pull away. As you'll see, here's where all the clip positions are. So those are kind of where you want to have the pressure points of pulling. Here's the replacement bezel. Once it goes on, that only seems to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 clips. So it doesn't really match up if you're trying to look at this versus this to figure out where you need to pull. Now the next step is, which I've already started, is to take the factory screws out from the sides of the radio here, and we'll be pulling these radios out. Now let's see, this has come out already. Yeah, so I think they have to come out in some sort of an order. There might be some screws here that we haven't taken out yet that need to come out, so you can zap that. Okay, so in order to get the radio out, it kind of comes out in a little bit of an order. So take this part off first, which is where the cigarette lighters are and the traction control stuff and the pedal controllers. There's these little clips that are in here. It makes it easy. You just push them down with a small screwdriver, you know, something like this, and they pop right out. And then you got the same thing with the AC controller. For the radio that I have, I need to take this back part off to be able to transpose it to the new radio.
Got it. Oh.
Okay, so apologies, I keep getting ahead of myself. But you have to take, if you have an automatic climate control, you have to take this unit off the back of your climate control. There's a cable underneath here that gets plugged in, okay, to the Android unit. And then you got to screw this on, and then the cables down here that came off of this will reconnect back in here. Okay, so let me tie that down, and we'll see what the next step is. Okay, so once again I got a little ahead of myself. What you want to do then is take the radio, and it's it looks like a gigantic rat's nest here, so I'm going to basically clean this up a little bit as best I can. But all I really wanted to do was do a quick test to make sure everything was working properly. A few of the things that didn't work right out of the gate was the USB port, the factory USB port. I used the wrong cable. The one with the blue connector doesn't work, so I used the one that did not have the blue connector, and that did work. The factory mic in the car doesn't work, so I hooked up the I just hooked up this thing temporarily, the little mic here. That seemed to work no problem, responding to voice commands. I called my wife to test it. She could hear me clearly. All good. Over here, as you can see down there, is the other USB port. So I've got 3 USB ports on this thing. One of them is for the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, which I integrated with the factory USB port. The other I used to connect, can't find it here. Where's that box with the, yeah. This I use to maintain integration with the rear screen. This takes up one of the 3 USB ports. So you have to have one that's dedicated to Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's the single USB. And then you have one that's a double USB. So I took one of the double USBs to use the rear seat integration. And the other one, I just made it available down there. Eventually, I'm gonna probably use some sort of a flush mount here to make it look less crappy. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, get this set up, and then I'll provide another video here with the next step. Okay, I got that rat's nest somewhat figured out, but it was still a big mess. I just kind of pushed everything back there, made it look as neat as possible. And then you got 6 connections, 6 screws. I just used the original screws that came with it. And then you've got these side connectors that we're gonna connect here to this thing here that go here and here. And then that gives you operability of these buttons on the side. You can also program those buttons. So I'm gonna put this up here, button it up, and make sure everything's working properly in just a minute. Okay, I'm gonna say that the Phoenix radio, they get an A for fitment. This thing went in pretty sweet, pretty smooth, no gaps, nothing. It clipped in and it basically looks factory. They did a great job. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you a walkthrough real quick. Bear in mind that this is my first absolute time using this thing. Got it. So it's gonna be a limited tutorial because there's a lot to learn here, but I'm gonna basically give you a rundown real quick of what I learned and how I got the unit operating at a moment. It's something that I kind of like and use. So with further ado, here we go. Let me start the car so you see. So it's got Android 12. Now, the reason it's taking so long is because I disabled fast boot. Fast boot will actually keep this unit alive, and that can also drain your battery. I don't mind waiting the extra 10 seconds for the fast boot to not work, or for it to do its normal booting. So this is the stock view of the Android radio. As you can see, I have a Chevy Avalanche. That's not a Chevy Avalanche. If you want to change that, you have to put a file on an SD card, and you just hold that, and you can basically find the file in your SD card and replace it. However, what I did is I downloaded the Agama launcher. So in order to get to that, actually, I'm sorry, in order to get to that, under apps, it's here, Agama car launcher. It's $2.99 in the Google Play Store. You hit that. Back away a little bit. This is basically the default launcher screen, which is very nice. Looks kind of integrated as basically like it came with the car. First thing I did is the whole reason I got this radio is because I wanted wireless CarPlay. So I have that set to work under music. So now it's going to communicate with my phone. Okay, it doesn't want you to connect Bluetooth while using CarPlay. And there we go, we've got the music. All right, so we've got okay. And the steering wheel controls worked right out of the gate. The only thing I had to do was go in and reverse the network. Yes. The up and down were reversed, so I had to go into the settings to do that. Okay. To get back to the main screen, you go back. Now, I told you that I got the Adama launcher. So in order to make that the default, you go into Adama, you go here, and under home screen, you set the Agama to be the home, and then it comes up with the main screen here. The side buttons here control the AC on the left, and on the right you have your controls that used to be at the bottom of this here. Okay, so you've got your traction control, which is here now. I guess that's the beeping noise when you go in reverse. That's here, and then the pedal controls are here. This is a rear washer that doesn't do anything, but you can program it to do something on the radio if you hold a long press. Same thing goes with this. I'm not exactly sure what this button does, as it doesn't exist here. What else? You got all your apps, Play Store. You can watch YouTube TV if you want. It says I'm offline. Yeah, because I had to connect the CarPlay. So when I disconnect CarPlay, it'll reconnect to the Wi-Fi, the hotspot on my phone. I decided not to connect the SIM card antenna because I'm not going to be using a SIM card. I'm just going to use the hotspot on my phone. The other thing too is I did not connect the internal speaker because for whatever reason, all my sounds are working fine. The turn signal, the door chime, the phone, everything is coming through my integrated system. Okay, so I've had this thing in here a couple days now, and I'm learning stuff as I go along here. I mentioned earlier that I am by no means the authority, and I'm not an expert on this at all. It's a lot of trial and error. So I had mentioned before that I turned off sleep mode so that when I turn the car off, it turns off the unit itself, and then every time you turn it on, yeah, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to boot up, which I didn't think was a big deal. But it is a big deal when you immediately go into reverse. The system is not ready to give you the rear view of the camera, so you have to kind of sit here and wait till it boots up, so that when you do go into reverse, it's now ready to accept the signal of the rear cam to display it here on the screen. So I got to thinking, I'm like, all right, is my car going to be sitting for long periods of time? Probably not. I drive it every day, so I don't know if the battery's going to run down on it. If I'm going to be taking a trip or going away for a week or so, I might want to go in and change the setting so that it doesn't go into sleep mode and it just turns off. So that's one thing. And I'll show you real quick what I'm talking about. So if I go to CarPlay, okay, and I press play here, we get music. Okay. Now, if I turn the car off, car's off, I gotta open the door because it's got the power retention here. Ooh, boy. Lots of fingerprints on that bad boy. All right, so I turned the car off. I'm back in the car as though like I had just gotten out to run in to get some milk or something. And now I'm back. So I'm gonna start the car. And I'm going to show you how quickly this thing boots up now that it does not have sleep mode enabled. I'm sorry, it does have sleep mode enabled. So it comes up. So it's basically connecting wirelessly to my phone. It's there. And then if I hit reverse real quick, there's the backup cam comes on. Boom, done. Okay. And then it's basically right back to the Apple CarPlay. And I just have to hit play. And I got my music back. Okay, so that's one thing. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is the settings on where to do that. And then one more quick thing I wanted to show you, and I'll tell you about that in a second. But I'm going to pause the video here and then set this thing up and show you another thing. Okay, so as I said, I was learning about this radio. Lots of different idiosyncrasies, if I can say that word correctly. So really all I wanted is, I'm an Apple guy, I've got the Apple Watch, I've got the Apple phone, I'm recording this on an iPad. So I really like the Apple integration. So at the end of the day, all I cared about was I want my 2012 Chevy Avalanche to have CarPlay. And so sure enough, here it is, right? So there's everything that I really need through CarPlay. It's got the, the podcasts. I've got Sirius XM here. I've got, if I want to order my coffee through Dunkin', tune in radio if I want to listen to a radio station from Brazil or Central America or Europe or something. Obviously, you got Spotify. And then, of course, let's not forget Waze, right? Waze is important. So Waze basically comes right up. And so the point being, I've got what I wanted, right? Case closed. However, this Android tablet does a lot more than just give you CarPlay, right? So for me, I'm happy. For you other guys out there that might be like Android enthusiasts or, see the potential of using Android. So for example, if I go back, okay, and I go over here to apps, right? So here you have your full complement. Now we're kind of looking at the Android, for lack of a better term, subsystem, right? So you don't have to use CarPlay. You don't even have to use your phone. If you get a hotspot or a dedicated data connection for this unit, you could pretty much use this tablet here. Well, I mean, I call it a tablet because it looks like a tablet. Pretty much on its own. You can download all the apps directly to this. Your phone doesn't have to have anything to do with it. Now, of course, you need the phone if you want to, make phone calls or receive phone calls. And of course, there's an integration piece for that, for your phone link. But again, really, you don't have to tether your phone to this thing other than having the ability to make phone calls. So my point is if you're not a CarPlay person and you just want to use the tablet as a tablet and the Android subsystem, you can do that. You've got the radio, you've got there's onboard storage here. If you want to connect an SD card, or I'm sorry, like a USB stick or something with music, you can do that. It's pretty much an Android tablet, and then of course the CarLink basically behaves as the CarPlay app. If you click that, boom, there's CarPlay, right? So that's pretty cool, so there's a lot of versatility here. Now, CarPlay does connect wirelessly to your phone using Wi-Fi. It does not use Bluetooth. That's a misnomer. It's using Wi-Fi. So when you have CarPlay hooked up and you've got this interface here, anything that requires internet through CarPlay will get internet through your phone's data connection. However, if you go back to what I just did, for example, and you go to the apps and you try to go to Google, right? So it's going to come up, but it's going to tell you can't sign in because there's no internet, right? So if we hit search, let's see, I was searching something. Let's see, does that come up? Yeah, see, SIM card not found, network not available. So if you want to be able to flip back and forth, through CarPlay and have a data connection, then you're probably gonna have to have a separate hotspot for this tablet, or you get your dedicated SIM card that goes in the back of the unit, so that you always have data on this particular unit. Or the other option is to not use the CarPlay, or not bounce around, and then you can still hook up to your phone's hotspot if your phone company, if your cellular provider offers you hotspot service, and then you can use Wi-Fi that way. If you want to go to CarPlay, though, however, you're going to have to disconnect the Wi-Fi from whatever access point you're connected to, whether it's your phone or wherever, so that the phone can connect to the CarPlay. In this particular case, they call it, what was it again? CarLink via Wi-Fi, and that's it. So you can't do it concurrently unless you have a dedicated hotspot for this. Now, I've seen hotspots that connect to the ODB port. There's something called Verizon Hum, and I know T-Mobile has something as well. Now you're talking about an extra expense every month to have that. So for right now, I don't care about this interface. all I really care about, as I mentioned before, is this view here. As long as I have this, me personally, I'm a happy camper. However, like I said, there's other people out there, they might want to watch Netflix, YouTube TV, whatever, through the actual Android interface, which would be through here. And, for example, firing up YouTube TV, which again, I don't have the internet connection, so it's not going to show up. But anyway, when it does, you can have it. And I'm happy to do the switching back and forth and the nonsense that you have to do to get it to work. So that's one thing. All right, I'm going to pause here, and then I got a couple other things, other observations to talk about. Okay, so you may have noticed earlier in my video, whenever I touch the screen, it would make that annoying beeping sound. Beep, 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 beep. It was driving me insane. So I finally figured out how to turn that off, and it's very simple. I don't know how I missed it, but you go under settings, and you go under sound, and it's keypad tone. So I've turned it off, okay? So this car has that. Now I'm not gonna, I can show you what it, sorry about that, the video got cut off because as I was trying to stretch back there, I pushed a button that stopped the video. However, don't need to spend too much time looking at the rear screen. The rear screen is basically showing whatever comes on this screen, and it's squished, right? So I saw somebody who said if you go in the settings, you can basically send the signal for video signal only to the rear screen. I can't for the life of me find that setting. This looks different than what somebody showed online. If I go under USB video output setting, it gives me these particular things here. I haven't had a chance to play with this. And then it gives me another option here to set projection APKs. I don't know what that means. So I basically just did YouTube and YouTube TV, but I haven't had a chance to test it. So I don't know what that means. If anybody has an understanding on how to set so that the TV in the back only comes on when I'm using an app that would call for it, such as YouTube or YouTube TV, I would be in your debt. Aside from that, I know I've been rambling on here like crazy. I don't like the sound of my own voice, so I don't know why I've been talking. I guess I'm just excited about this unit. Pretty exciting. I love it. It's fantastic. All my buttons are working here. I told you about these buttons over here. You can set some of them if you do a hard press, and then basically select an option over here. Then it basically becomes tied to that particular function. I feel like there's more I need to tell you, but at this point, I completely recommend this radio. Like I said, I was just looking for CarPlay. It checked that box, but I know there's more potential here that I'm probably not scratching. I mean, I've only scratched the surface of, for lack of a better term. I love my Chevy Avalanche. I'm so happy I bought this truck. It's beautiful. And now that basically the technology is back to 2024 standards, I am, like I said, I'll keep using the term, a very, very happy camper. Happy to have a conversation with anybody about this radio. Installation wasn't that bad. Speaking of installation, if you do a YouTube search for Phoenix 2000, no, you don't even have to bother with the date. Just do Phoenix Avalanche or Tahoe. There's a video of the Phoenix company telling you how to make all the connections on the rear of this unit. And that's pretty much what I did before I installed this radio. I made all the connections that needed to be made, without it being installed. And then it was just basically plug and play. Very, very simple installation. Okay, enough talking. Thank you so much. Phoenix, happy. Let's see how it goes. If anything changes within the next few days or within the month or whatever, I'll update the video. Thank you. All right, there was one more thing, of course. It never ends, and I know you guys are tired of hearing my voice, but this is probably helpful for you. And I know if you do a search in the forums and stuff, you'll find it, but real simple. If you go to settings and you need to go into this main settings screen, for example, you go over here or here, that's just general settings, other settings. But if you need to go to where it shows this wrench and screwdriver and it asks you for the password, just so you know, it's 3368, confirm, and you're in. And then you have a lot more settings available to you here. Okay, So 3368 is the code. And there you have it. I think I'm done for now. If I'm not, stay tuned. Thank you.